Uh, Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, Thank you again for coming back, August uh, 12, 2023. So I always appreciate you coming to my media and please uh, share, like, and subscribe to the media so we can share updates on Ethiopia, especially and other parts of the world. So let me start with a little bit update on civil war in Ethiopia. It's a civil war, really. It's a continuation of uh, uh, maybe part three. Part one is in Oromia. It started immediately after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power in 2018, still waging. And the other one is the 2-year war, which is, relatively settled now, thanks to the Pretoria Agreement. Now, part three is a very serious civil war in Amhara region. There is claim and a counterclaim about victories. The government is claiming, is in control of the situation. The Fanos are also claiming some victory, especially today in western Gojam area around Bure town. They claim capturing of 2 tanks and, injuring and killing and capturing some Ethiopian forces. So the situation is still very tense in Region 3, and we do not have international media coverage for this war, and the country's media are not saying that much. Only the command post is releasing some statement. Also on the Fano side, they have one voice of Amhara, which is, you cannot independently verify, but the news is coming through that media. So the war still, very tense, heavy bombardment and heavy engagement is still active in Amhara region, especially today in western Gojam, Bure town area. So the other disturbing news coming from this civil war is an accusation presented by Masai Mokonnen, Anchor Media, the host of Anchor Media, the former SAT journalist. He is, raising a very serious issue. So this issue of mass detention, mistreatment based on ethnicity. So such accusation was, occurred or happened during the 2-year civil war in Tigray. So that time, some media and the Tigrayan media were reporting that Tigrayans were targeted just by being from Tigray ethnicity, from Tigray. Mass detention, mistreatment, all kind of abuses. Now the turn is Amhara. Amhara is claiming, and this media is claiming that Amharas, are being targeted just by being from that ethnicity, not by conduct of criminality, but this is a very disturbing one. Very disturbing one, and it needs our attention, and also need the attention of the global community. If this is happening, this is against Ethiopia's law and against international law. Arresting somebody just because of he or she from a certain ethnicity. So very disturbing, very disturbing news, and we should all condemn if this is happening in Ethiopia again. So let's listen to it. Then I will continue with reading some other materials. It's in Amharic. Just listen.
ዜናዎችን ይዤ መጥቻለሁ። መሳይ መኮንን ነኝ። በአዲስ አበባ የተካሄደ ያለውን መጠነ ሰፊ አፈሳና እስር የኦሮሚያ ብልጽግናና የህወሓት የደህንነትና ወታደራዊ አመራሮች በጋራ የሚያከናውኑት ነው ተባለ። ልሳነ ግፏን የወልቃይት ጠገዴ ጠለምት ተሟጋች ድርጅት ደረሰኝ ያለውን ጥብቅ መረጃ ጠቅሶ በላከልን መግለጫ የኦሮሚያና የህወሓት ደህንነትና ወታደራዊ አመራሮች የአማራ ተወላጆች ላይ ያነጣጠረውን የጅምላ አፈናና አፈሳ በጋራ አቅደው እያከናወኑት መሆኑን አስታውቋል። ከ4000 በላይ ታፍነው ከተወሰዱት መሃል 300 የሚሆኑት በጭካኔ ተገድሏልም ሲል ይገልጻል። ዝርዝር አለ። ልሳነ ግፉአን የወልቃይት ጠገዴ ጠለምት የመብት ተሟጋች ድርጅት ለአንከር ሚዲያ የላከው መግለጫ ላይ እንደተመለከተው ህዝባዊ ወያኔ ሓርነት ትግራይ ህወሓት የደህንነትና ወታደራዊ ኃላፊዎች ከኦሮሚያ ብልጽግና ከፍተኛ የደህንነትና ወታደራዊ ባለስልጣናት ጋር ግንባር ፈጥረው በአማራ ህዝብ ላይ መጠነ ሰፊ አፈናና አፈሳ እያከናወኑ ይገኛል። ቀደም ሲል የተጀመረውና በአማራ ተወላጆች ላይ ብቻ ተለይቶ ሲፈጸም የቆየው ግፍና ሰቆቃ ከፕሪቶሪያው ስምምነት ማግስት ጀምሮ በህወሓትና በብልጽግና መንግስት መካከል ከሰፈነው ህገወጥና መርህ አልባ ግንኙነት ጋር ተያይዞ በእጅጉ ተጠናክሮ የቀጠለ ነው ሲል ይገልጻል። ልሳነ ግፉአን በተለይም በቅርቡ ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር አብይ አህመድ ካቢኔ ባወጀው የአስቸኳይ ጊዜ አዋጅና ከዚህም ጋር ተያይዞ በተቋቋመው ኮማንድ ፖስት በኩል በአዲስ አበባ ብቻ ከ4000 በላይ ሰላማዊ ዜጎች ለእስር እንደተዳረጉና የሚገኙበትም ሁኔታ በግልጽ እንደማይታወቅ ነው ልሳነ ግፉአን የገለጸው። ይህ የጅምላ እስርና ማሰቃየት በዋናነት ያተኮረው በአማራ ምሁራን፣ ጋዜጠኞች፣ የማህበረሰብ አንቂዎች፣ ባለሀብቶችና ፖለቲከኞች ላይ ሲሆን ጥቃቱ በተለየ ሁኔታ በአማራ ወጣቶች ላይ ያነጣጠረ ነው ሲል ገልጿል። ልሳነ ግፉአን ድርጅት ከታማኝ ምንጮች ደረሱኝ ባለው መረጃ እስካሁን ድረስ ታፍኖ ከተወሰዱት ከ4000 በላይ ሰላማዊና ንጹሃን የአማራ ተወላጆች መካከል ከ300 በላይ የሚሆኑት በጭካኔ ተረሽነዋል። እንዲሁም ከ55 በላይ የሚሆኑት ወዳልታወቀ ስፍራ መወሰዳቸውን ሚስጥራዊ መረጃውን ጠቅሶ ገልጿል። ከዚህም በመነሳት በአዲስ አበባና በአካባቢው በሚኖሩ የአማራ ተወላጆች ላይ በጥብቅ ሚስጥር እየተፈጸመ የሚገኝ የዘር ፍጅት እየተካሄደ መሆኑ ድርጅታችንን ያሳስበዋል ሲል ልሳነ ግፉአን ስጋቱን ገልጿል። ስለሆነም አሁን በአፈና ላይ ያሉትና በመታሰር ላይ የሚገኙትን የአማራ ተወላጆች አሁን በመካሄድ ላይ ያለው አማራን በጅምላ የመፍጀት ጥቃት ሰለባ እንዳይሆኑ ከፍተኛ ስጋት አድሮብናል ብለዋል። ስለሆነም መላው የአዲስ አበባ ህዝብ ልጆቹ ከቤቱና ከስራ ገበታቸው በብልጽግና መንግስት ቡድን ታፍነው መወሰዳቸውን እያወቀ እጁን አጣጥፎ ሊቀመጥ አይገባምና ልጆቹ የት እንደደረሱና በምን ሁኔታ ላይ እንደሚገኙ ማወቅና ማረጋገጥ ይጠበቅበታል ብለዋል። በዚህም ትግል ውስጥ ልሳነ ግፉአን ድርጅት ከህዝብ ጎን በመሰለፍ የመሪነት ግዴታውንና ኃላፊነቱን እንደሚወጣ ለማረጋገጥ ይወዳል ሲል ገልጿል። የኢትዮጵያ የሰብአዊ መብቶች ኮሚሽን ኢሰመኮ በአዲስ አበባና በዙሪያዋ በአማራ ተወላጆች ላይ እየተፈጸመ የሚገኘውን የጅምላ እስርና እንግልት፣ ታሳሪዎቹ የሚገኙበትን ቦታና ሁኔታ እንዲሁም እየተካሄደ የሚገኘውን የዘር ፍጅት እንዲመረምርና ለኢትዮጵያ ህዝብም ሆነ ለዓለም አቀፉ ማህበረሰብ በፍጥነት በግልጽ እንዲያሳውቅ እጠይቃለሁ ሲል ለኢትዮጵያ የሰብአዊ መብቶች ኮሚሽን ጥሪ አቅርበዋል። ከብልጽግና መንግስት ጋር በመሆን የአማራ ክልልን በኮማንድ ፖስት እዝ ስር እንዲወርቅ የወሰኑና ያቋቋሙ የፖለቲካ ፓርቲዎች በአማራ ህዝብ ላይ እየተፈጸመ ለሚገኘውና ዘርን መሰረት ያደረገ የጅምላ እስርና ግድያ እንዲሁም በመካሄድ ላይ ለሚገኘው ጭፍጨፋና የዘር ማጥፋት ወንጀል ተጠያቂ መሆናቸውን በመግለጽ በአማራ ህዝብ ላይ እየተፈጸመ የሚገኘውን የዘር ማጥፋት ወንጀል በአስቸኳይ እንዲያስቆሙ ልሳነ ግፉአን በጥብቅ አሳስበዋል። የብልጽግና መንግስትም በአዲስ አበባና አካባቢው በአማራ ተወላጆች ላይ እያደረሰ ያለውን መጠነ ሰፊ የጅምላ እንግልት፣ እስርና ግድያ በአስቸኳይ ካላቆመ ሌሎች የመፍትሄ አማራጮችን ለመጠቀም እንገደዳለን ሲል ልሳነ ግፉአን በመግለጫው ጠቅሷል።
Only $2.69. This trendy polo shirt has sold more than 3,900 sold on Temu. 4 colors to choose. Soft and comfy.
Okay, one more about Adama or Nazareth.
ይህ በእንዲህ እንዳለ በአዳማ ናዝሬት ማንነትን መሰረት ያደረገ አፈሳ እየተካሄደ ነው። ባለፉት 3 ቀናት 5000 የሚሆኑ የአማራ ብሔር ተወላጆች የከተማዋ ነዋሪዎች ታፍሰው ወደ ተለያዩ እስር ቤቶች መወሰዳቸውን የደረሰን መረጃ ያመለክታል። ስለ ጉዳዩ ያነጋገርናቸው አንድ የአዳማ ከተማ ነዋሪ ግልጽ የሆነ ማንነት ላይ ያተኮረ ጥቃት በአዳማ ከተማ በስፋት እየተካሄደ ነው። ካፈናና እስሩ በተጨማሪ ከፍተኛ የሰብአዊ መብት ጥሰት እየተፈጸመ እንደሆነም ነዋሪው ገልጸዋል። ከአንድ ወር በፊት በአዳማ ምንነቱ ያልታወቀ ቤት ለቤት ቆጠራ መካሄዱ የሚታወስ ሲሆን ነዋሪዎች የሆነ የታቀደ ከባድ ነገር ሳይኖር አይቀርም ሲሉ ስጋታቸውን በወቅቱ መግለጻቸው ተዘግቧል። አንከር ሚዲያ ያነጋገራቸው ነዋሪ እንደሚሉት አፈሳው ተጠናክሮ እየተካሄደ ነው።
የአማራ ተወላጅ የሆነ ማንኛውም እየታሰረ መንጃ ፈቃድም የባጃጅ መንጃ ፈቃድም የያዘ ከነባጃጅ እየታሰረ አማራ ነህ የፋኖ ደጋፊ ነህ እየተባለ እስከ ዛሬ ጠዋት ድረስ 5000 አማራ እንደታሰረ በቂ መረጃ አለኝ። አዳማ ወረዳ 4 መድኃኔዓለም አካባቢ የተባለ ምንጃር ሰፈር ይባላል። በአማራነት መንገድ እየተዘጋ ታክሲ ባጃጅ እየተፈተሸ የአማራ ብሔር የሚል መታወቂያ ከሆነ እሱ ወደ ጎን እየተባለ በመኪና እየተጫነ በፖሊስ ጣቢያ በመጋዘን ሽንት እየተደፋባቸው ሽንት እየተሸናባቸው መብት እየረገጡ ሁሉ እንደዚህ አይነት ጁኖሳይድ እየተፈጠረ ስለሆነ እንደተደግብልን ነው።
ያውን እየሆነ ያለው በሰሞኑ ነው።
ዛሬና ትናንት ከነሐሴ 2 ጀምሮ እስከ ዛሬዋ ቀን ድረስ ቀን በወጣ ቁጥር ነው ቤታቸው የሚፈተሸው።
Okay, so it's a very long video, and if you want more details, you can watch Anchor Media. But these are very disturbing accusation. It should be investigated, and I express the same attitude during the 2 years civil war which happened on Tigray region. That time, the same accusation happened by different social media, and even the international community expressed very serious concern about such kind of tactics used by Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his security forces. So I condemned that action, and again I will condemn this one. If it's happening, if this is true, just going around and detaining Amaras from Addis Ababa, capital city Addis Ababa, and Adama area, and this is a very serious accusation. So according to this report, in Addis Ababa alone, in the capital city, Amaras, 4,000 Amaras were detained, and from these 300 of them brutally killed, according to Anchor Media, citing Lisana Gufuan. I don't know what this is, but he's citing Lisana Gufuan for this report. And according to this press statement, 300 brutally killed, and 4,000 from these 4,000 Amaras, the whereabouts even is unclear. The remaining, some of them detained in a warehouse, schools, and mistreatment, happening. The other is in another big city, Adama or Nazareth. Amharas were seriously targeted by security apparatus just for being from that region. Just because of born Amhara, they were targeted according to this report. And this is illegal and this is criminal according to Ethiopian constitution and according to international law. So it should be investigated, and whoever doing this ethnic-based arrest, mass detention, and mistreatment, they should be accounted for. Even though it's very hard to see that accountability under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, but it should be recorded, just like the Tigray war time. Everything is recorded. Everything. We're just waiting for the time, for the right time to bring those criminals into justice. So Amharas are mistreated, mass detained, their properties confiscated, urine thrown on their face. So this is just is a very bad image for Ethiopia, and we should all condemn such behavior. If individuals are suspected of crime, or if they committed a crime, they should be brought to the justice system, to the court, with evidence. So this mass detention based on ethnicity must be stopped, and that is my point, and this accusation must be investigated, and the international community, UN, US, European Union, they should not ignore this violation, this international law violation in Ethiopia happening in Adama and Addis Ababa, mass detention based on ethnicity. This is a very accusation, very serious allegation, should be investigated. Okay, let's continue with other news. Here we go. This is from another update on Ethiopia civil war from Command Post. Command Post admits civilian deaths in Amhara region, reveals list of suspects under custody. The command post established to oversee the 6 months state of emergency in Amhara region said innocent lives have been lost, properties destroyed and looted in the ongoing conflict in the region, adding that the damage will be investigated and made public. The command post said in a statement on Friday that it has successfully finalized the first phase of its operation, which was to liberate the cities and the towns that were held by the Fano armed group and restore peace and order in the region. The bandits have now fled the cities to fortify heritage sites and religious institutions to cause damage to these places, the statement added. Furthermore, the statement conveyed that 23 individuals, including Member of Parliament Christian Tadele and the journalist Bekalu Alamirro, were arrested, suspected of carrying out various illegal activities in cities and providing logistical and financial support by taking a duty from the armed group. The suspects will be brought to justice after the necessary evidence is collected, it stated, adding that no other suspect has been arrested apart from these individuals. This is the government side. So it's in contrary to what Anchor Media is saying, just only 23 individuals. No mass arrest. The statement reiterated that the demands of the Amhara people will be answered in a legal and a peaceful way through National Dialogue Commission and following the constitutional system, not by force through illegal means. A relative calm has returned to several cities and towns in the Amhara region after days of intense fighting between the non-state local armed group FANO and the government forces that has led to the imposition of curfew in major cities and towns. However, reports show that there are significant civilian casualties, especially in the two major cities, Bahr Dar and Gondar. On Friday, the government of Australia, Japan, and New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America, as well as European Union mission to Ethiopia and embassies of 19 European Union member states in the country expressed concerns about the violence in the Amhara region and called for peaceful resolution of the problem. So the situation is getting much attention, but it's going to help? We don't know what's going to help. So the 5 countries expressed concern about violence in Amhara, Oromia regions, call for protection of civilians, respect for human rights. In a joint statement issued this morning, the government of Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom and the United States of America said they are concerned about the recent violence in the Amhara and Oromia regions, which has resulted in civilian deaths and instability. The countries also said they encourage all parties to protect civilians, respect human rights, and to work together to address complex issues in a peaceful manner. The international community continues to support the goal of long-term stability for all Ethiopians. The joint statement adds up to growing calls from Ethiopia's international partners over recent militarized violence that engulfed the Amhara regional state and the continued conflict in the Oromia regional state that have caused immense civilians' deaths and the destruction of civilian infrastructure, including health and education facilities in 2 of Ethiopia's largest regional states. The International Commission of Human Rights experts on Ethiopia said yesterday that it was deeply concerned about the reported deterioration security situation in the northwest region of Ethiopia, particularly in the Amhara regional state, and called on all sides to respect human rights and take steps to de-escalate the situation and prioritize processes for the peaceful resolution of differences. A relative calm has returned to several cities and towns in the Amhara region after 5 days of intense fighting between the non-state local armed group FANO and the government forces that led to the imposition of curfews in major cities and towns by the military command post overseeing the 6-month state of emergency. However, reports show that there are significant civilian casualties, especially in the 2 major cities, Bahr Dar and Gondar. In a phone call with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has already expressed concern regarding the situation in the Amhara and Oromia regions. Although it is overshadowed by the recent fighting in the Amhara region, the 5-year conflict in the Oromia regional state involving government forces and the Armed Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, is still ongoing with no prospect for peaceful resolution. recent attempt to reach at a negotiated settlement through talks held in Zanzibar, Tanzania, ended without concert outcome. Calls for peaceful resolution of the conflict, including from lawmakers representing Oromia regional state and the US government, have so far yielded no result. Yes, the war is still heavy, very tough in Oromia region, and we don't have media coverage, whether from domestic or international media. So, but the war is continuing. CPJ urges immediate release of journalist Bekalu Alamirro, protection of press freedom in Ethiopia. This Bekalu Alamirro may be arrested for the third time, maybe fourth, I don't know. Let me see. Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, said Ethiopian authorities must immediately release journalist Bekalu Alamirro, founder and chief editor of Alpha Media, a YouTube-based news channel, and ensure the protection of press freedom in the country. According to CPJ, Bekalu was arrested by 3 uniformed police officers and 2 other people in civilian clothing on Sunday, 6 August, at his home in Addis Ababa. The committee said in a statement on Friday that police searched Bekalu's house and confiscated his laptop, CDs, and USB flash drives a day after his arrest, and that he didn't appear before court of law within 48 hours of his detention that the Constitution demands. It's a Constitution, but who gonna ask? Who gonna ask? That is Ethiopian Constitution, is best written, but the problem is the putting into practice. After you are arrested, you should, appear in court within 48 hours. But it is not happening. Okay. Prior to his arrest, Bekalu extensively covered the ongoing violence confrontation in Amhara state between government forces and Fano, an armed militia operating within the state. The statement added, Bekalu Alamirro and all fellow journalists currently detained for their reporting and commentary must be unconditionally released and allowed to work freely without legal harassment and censorship, said Angela Quintal, CPJ's Africa Program Coordinator. Bekalu has been arrested several times previously. He was first arrested in November 2020 when he was the editor-in-chief of Aulo Media, accused of disseminating false information and defaming the Ethiopian government. He was released on 10,000 birr bail after 16 days in prison. He was one of the 12 journalists from 2 online media platforms, Aulo Media and Ethio Forum, who was detained in June 2021. The 12 journalists were all released after several months in detention. However, Aulo Media has since shut down after police failed to return its confiscated equipment. Bekalu then went to establish Alpha Media. He was also arrested again in May 2022 amidst a crackdown on a dozen journalists and media personalities in Bahir Dar, the capital of the Amhara region, and Addis Ababa. He has now been arrested for the 4th time in the wake of a state of emergency that has been declared in Amhara region following escalation of hostilities between government forces and the non-state Fano militia. So, Bakalu Alamarao and many other journalists arrested, rearrested. Finally, the court released them on bail. This is an indication that the government is harassing journalists. There is a problem of press freedom under Abiy Ahmed. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And when he came to power, he promised to provide press freedom and convenient atmosphere for journalists to do their jobs. All the things changed now. He arrest, he confiscate their laptops, he confiscate their cameras. This is, is a tactic to dismantle them, to destroy them, and to just stay only with the media that support the government. Thank you. At this standard again. So that's a challenge we face. So they are arresting just based on because they are not supporting the government. They don't have any evidence to bring these journalists into court. Nothing. I didn't see anyone convicted of crime because the government fear their commentary and their news they are sharing, and they just go after them. And when they bring them courts, no evidence of criminality. That's a challenge. So, and this one is about the situation. This is Ethiopia government cracking down on gay sex in hotels, bars, and restaurants. This is reported by Reuters. Security forces in Ethiopia are cracking down on hotels, bars, and restaurants in the capital Addis Ababa, where gay sexual activity is alleged to take place, the city administration said on Thursday. Several African countries that criminalize homosexuality have enforced the law more harshly in recent years, with many governments proposing stricter laws and sentences, including most recently in Ghana and Uganda. Rights groups say the LGBTQ community in Ethiopia remains underground because LGBTQ people face high levels of discrimination and fear violence and ostracism if their identities are discovered. The Addis Ababa Peace and Security Administration Bureau, a government body, said was taking action against institutions where homosexual acts are carried out, following tip-off from the public, and had already raided a guest house in the city. So this is the challenge also, in addition to the civil war. Finally, this is from U.S. State Department concerning the coup in Niger, and U.S. supporting ECOWAS stand on the situation. Let me read. ECOWAS call for restoration of constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Press statement from Anthony J. Blinken, Secretary of State. The United States joins the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, in calling for the restoration of constitutional order in Niger. The United States appreciates the determination of ECOWAS to explore all options for the peaceful resolution of the crisis. Democracy is the best foundation for development, social cohesion, and stability in Niger. We stand with Nigerian people in work toward these goals. We echo the ECOWAS condemnation of the illegal detention of President Mohamed Bazoum, his family, and members of the government, as well as the unacceptable condition under which they are being held, and call for their immediate release. Like ECOWAS, the United States will hold the Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, CNCP, accountable for the safety and the security of President Bazoum, his family, and the detained members of the government. Yes, the coup leaders removed the president, Mohamed Bazoum, and they are keeping him and his family and members of his government in a very tough situation without clean water, without electricity. It's very tough, without food. So it's very tough. At least treat them humanly. You took the power, just, treat these people humanely. Don't abuse the power. But it's a military. It's a tough one. Military people, they are very tough. Unless they took off the military uniform, become like us, then they think maybe then they feel humanity. If not, when they got the gun, the military rank, they don't care about humanity. So that is a very harsh treatment of former president, his family, and member of the government. They should be treated fairly and give the power to the public instead of holding to the military. Okay, that's all I have for reading. Let's listen to a couple of videos I selected for you for today. The first one is about women's soccer tournament, FIFA Women's World Soccer Tournament, and it's coming to the end very soon. Let's listen.
Australia have reached the Women's World Cup semi-finals for the first time, beating France in an agonising penalty shootout in Brisbane. The Matildas will now play England after the Lionesses defeated Colombia 2-1. England advanced to the last four for the third consecutive Women's World Cup, despite going into the tournament with a host of key players out injured. In next week's semi-finals, Spain and Sweden are up first on Tuesday, and the Matildas will face the Lionesses in Sydney next Wednesday.
Okay, so that's for those interested in soccer.
Vice President Kamala Harris was in Chicago speaking to survivors of gun violence and volunteer gun safety activists. The occasion was Everytown for Gun Safety's annual conference called Gun Sense University. This was the vice president's third time in the city in less than a month. Vice President Harris declared that safety is a civil right. She said efforts towards gun violence prevention are about achieving the country's ideals.
I do believe that when we are in the fight for America to realize her promise and to achieve the foundational principles of freedom and equality.
The conference is happening at McCormick Place and runs through the weekend.
This summer, happiness is a new Chevy. You can go farther, tow more, and bring along everyone you
I think
let's
this is the
stay on
last one.
education matters. The government has set aside 19.6 billion shillings to fund university students as the new funding model for universities and technical and vocational education and training, TVET, takes effect in September this year when the 2023 KCSE candidates admissions begin. Universities Fund Chief Executive Officer Jeffrey Monari stated that the funding is enough to cater for more than 155,000 students in both public and private universities.
At 79 universities in the country,
prepare to admit students for the September 2023 intake in 2 weeks' time. A new funding model has been rolled out to focus on funding individual students. Unlike in the past when universities received capitation on behalf of the students, the funding model, which is seemingly centered on students, has elicited mixed reactions from parents and students alike as they seek to maneuver their way around the requirements for application. Universities Fund CEO Geoffrey Monari has stated that 19.6 billion has been allocated to fund university students. 155,814 students have been budgeted for, against 140,107 students who have been placed by the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service in both public and private universities.
We shall not close until the 140,127 students get in. But we cannot force everyone again to apply, because I could have been placed and I'm able to pay. It doesn't mean that the applications will be 100%. Even from past records, we have seen that some students opt not to apply. But the position is that we will want to accommodate every student because the funds are available.
Public university students will get scholarships and loans for their degree programs. The new funding model will fund private universities to a certain extent. The students will only acquire loans. Out of the 140,107 who have been placed by COOPs, 130,485 students placed in public universities will get a scholarship and loan, while 9,662 students placed in private universities will only get a loan. The government unveiled a portal for the new funding model for higher education on July 31st. However, with the 27th August deadline for registration and application fast approaching, just slightly above 6,000 students have so far applied.
The current status for applications is 6,155, and we are seeing an average of about 2,000, and it's growing every day, of students.
The Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service COOPS has, however, noted that the new funding model will address the gap of underfunding in universities, as university heads will have the leeway to decide how much fees is paid for every course.
The costs actually affected the way, the behavior of students in the way they applied for these courses.
Attractiveness of universities. I guess in Sokoruru says you cost your program and then see the people who are going to come to your program. When asked, we say that KU is the most expensive medical school at 720. Aga Khan is at 1.445, and people are going there. So where these people are going there? So you sell your product to the market decides whether the product is worth taking.
Universities have also been warned against increasing the school fees for any programs offered in the institutions, failure to which the Memorandum of Understanding agreement signed with the government will be revoked. Maria Nyambura, Citizen TV.
Okay, so that is the duty of the government to allocate more funds for to reach out all students who need funding. That is, we wish for our country. What the Kenyan government is doing, allocating this much money, 19.6 billion Kenyan shilling for university students, especially for public universities, and some loans for those attending private universities. What our Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia is doing today, he is commemorating, the completion of special air force in Blate military camp. Feeling proud about graduating all this military personnel. Yes, we need the military personnel, but he is mostly investing in security apparatus, investing in a military and those undercover operatives. That is the only way he can stay in power. That is his determination, spending the limited country's resources on military, getting more power to crush any citizens, you know, resisting his government, challenging his government, or expressing grievances. He will send. It happened in Sidama, it happened in Tigray, it's happening in Amhara region, it has been happening in Oromia region, just depending on the military power. That is a useless tactic. Military should be used to protect the country from foreign enemies. Foreign enemies. We need a military, but Ethiopians in general, especially the youth, are desperate to get out of that country because there is, lack of employment after even graduation. So they want to run away to UK, Turkey, Egypt, United States. If they got the opportunity, they will just ready to get out because there is lack of employment and high inflation and very low opportunity in every sector. Every sector. I don't know how people are living in that country. Really, inflation is extremely high, unemployment is high, and the country's relationship with the global community is very low. No scholarship, no major scholarship for Ethiopian students. No hope. So the government, it should act like Kenyans, work for stability, avoid dealing with the military muscles, just using the military power or using the undercover operatives to kill citizens. And the lack of accountability is very high in Ethiopia. So many crimes committed under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and nobody brought to justice. We keep counting all the crimes carried out in capital city Addis Ababa, in other regions, in Wollo area. Nobody accounted for, even though we have the evidence on video. So that is a challenge we are facing in Ethiopia, and the government is buying weapons and training military personnel and strengthening its security apparatus. No investment at all in civilian structures, roads, hospitals, schools. The only thing we see is parks, recreational parks. Yes, it's good, but you need to also use mentality to convince the people to live in a peacefully, in cohesion, loving each other, instead of creating enemies against each other and fighting each other, one war after another war. So this is a lack of leadership from the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his team. Concerned citizens, media, again, call upon Prime Minister, to resign, give a chance for another individuals to lead that country in a much better way, a way that can give hope for young generation and old generation, for all Ethiopians. That's all I'm gonna say for today. Thank you for joining me. Please share, subscribe, like my video so we can grow Concerned Citizens Media, so we can make it louder voice. Thank you again. Be safe. So long, everyone.